Morning. It's really an honor and pleasure to be here with all of you this morning to talk a little bit about some thoughts with respect to how we can encourage mitigation, and mitigation's on our mind, as we know, the theme of this meeting. First, let me echo the comments that Sam and Lindsay have made and the tremendous importance of what all of you are doing. The local and community level is absolutely critical in terms of dealing with this issue. I think we all are aware of it, but you are aware of it in a way that others are not because you're dealing with it every day, and it's just a pleasure to be able to interact with you to try to figure out how we can do a better job. And I also want to highlight the point that you were making, Lindsay, the tremendous importance on the community level, and the fact that you have this competition is very exciting because it actually poses essentially the challenges we face, and getting at the community level is critical. And there's an NRC Council on Community Resilience and a roundtable that complements this in Rockefeller. So there's a lot going on at that level. What I would like to focus on in the few minutes I have here is to raise the question whether and how insurance can play a role with respect to encouraging mitigation, and make the point at the outset that the two are integrally intertwined. The two really have to go together. And let me raise the following sort of general issue. I come from the Wharton School, University of Pennsylvania, as you know, and we like to see the market operate, but this is really where public-private partnerships are absolutely vital. But if you're going to have insurance playing a role in this, there are a couple of principles that I think need to be put on the table for it to be effective. And the first principle is that insurance premiums have to reflect risk. They have to reflect risk if you want it to serve as a tool to encourage mitigation. And let me indicate that on two levels. One is when it does reflect risk and when people know the information on how risky they are in where they are living, they are in a position to at least understand what they're up against. If you have a highly subsidized premium, people are going to think that they're safe. They're going to think they're protected. They won't go any further than that, but when they see that very, very low premium, and they say basically, we don't have to worry and we're okay. Now that is a basic principle of insurance, but it's not going to work on so many other levels, on equity and fairness grounds, and on issues of affordability. And so a second principle is one has to use insurance and couple it with the principle of dealing with equity and affordability. And I think that has to be coupled in a way that people will respond. And the rationale for that is that if you're going to deal with equity and affordability, and they're going to be low-income people, and you know this very, very well from your own personal experiences, who all of a sudden find their insurance premium going up to a level that they never expected, from $1,000 to $15,000 because it's risk-based, they're going to say, I can't afford it, and they're right. And they're going to say, I'm not going to have that, and of course, bigger waters, and we know what happened to that as a result of it. So you have to deal with the affordability issue, but you shouldn't do it through insurance premiums. You need to do it through other means, and you can deal it with vouchers or other ways, but you've got to help the people who all of a sudden the rug is pulled out from under them. So that is basically that principle number one, but also insurance premiums, if they reflect risk, encourage mitigation. Because if you mitigate your house, if you make it floodproof, if you elevate it, if you do things to make it safer, there are lower claims as a result of that, and you should get a premium discount. You'll never get a premium discount if the premium is highly subsidized. So having the subsidized premium does that, but you have to focus on the other aspect as well. Having said that, let me point out another area that a whole group of us are working in, and it becomes a central tenet for all the work we're doing in the Risk Management and Decision Processes Center. And that comes back to a book that some of you may have read. Let me just Thinking Fast and Slow, a book by Daniel Kahneman. Is anyone just a show of hands, maybe not many people have read it, but it's a remarkable book in the sense that it ties together 30 years of research on psychology, tying it in with economics. that indicates essentially that we have two aspects in terms of how we make decisions. We have an intuitive part of us, which actually focuses on the emotion, past experience, a whole set of things that are actually on the table when you actually make a decision. And we also have a deliberative part that makes trade-offs between benefits and costs, what we should do in a way that is more systematic. Most of the decisions we make every day are based on intuitive decisions, and they're very good. But we do very, very poorly with respect to low probability, high consequence events like flood, where the short run dominates our decisions and past experience, it will never happen to me, all the things that we're aware of dominate what we're doing. And so we have a real challenge with respect to how we deal with encouraging deliberative thinking. And so proposals have to be made for dealing with ways to combine these two together, to move away from the intuitive thinking, recognizing if we don't deal with the short run, we're not going to be very successful. So I'll put on very briefly a proposal that might enable one to go forward with respect to dealing with this issue of mitigation. And the idea basically would be you would have risk-based premiums, so that everyone knows what it is. You would have means vouchers or something for low-income people. You would have long-term loans for mitigation so that you actually enable a person not to incur the high upfront costs that say we're not going to do it tomorrow. And this stretched over a period of time. Everything gets tied to the property, and the flood insurance program is in a great position to do that because you have one insurer. And what you do is you give the individual a premium discount if they mitigate, and generally the cost of the loan will be less than the premium discount, so it becomes financially attractive. And the means-tested vouchers are a part of the process to encourage people to deal with the affordability. And if we have a package like this, and maybe even say to a person, you cannot get a voucher unless you either mitigated your home and made it safer, or possibly we'll help you move away if you can't mitigate, you begin to get together the notion of giving people a short-term benefit as a reason for dealing with these things, but you're thinking long-term because mitigation is a long-term solution to this problem, as we're all aware. And so I look forward to sort of the dynamics and whether we can move the flood program in a direction that would enable us to do that. Thank you very much.